The Revenue Plunge, episode number 2. Tom McEwen,
Jessica Campos.
welcome. Jessica has a lot to say today.
All right, guys, let's just cut to the chase, get into the plunge. We actually want to do a recap of the 4-hour workshop that we had. Obviously, you're not going to be here hours with us, okay? So it's going to be short. But I feel like definitely we want to leave for you guys a recap of that workshop because I think it was so good. Was so good. So first point is essentially like why we call it the no ads, right? Like why no ads? Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or you want me to keep rolling? Why we decided it was going to be the no ads?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest pitfall that we see with most wellness business owners is that they just rely excessively on paid ads.
Yep.
And for some businesses, it is a strategy that can work remarkably well. For the vast majority, it does not. Not only are you trying to push the easy button and take a shortcut to success, but you're going to lose your hair and a lot of money doing it. So instead of just jumping in and, launching ads when you're ready after you've done all the other work first, okay, we want to teach you exactly what to do without needing to advertise. We're not anti-advertising. You absolutely should advertise as it is one tool in the tool belt. But there's so many other ways that are low to no cost to grow your business without, possibly losing your business in the journey there too.
And this is so good. You ready? How many months you have been doing sales for our agency?
It's been 7 months now.
7 months.
7 to 7.5, yeah.
How many conversations, give or take, you will say you have conducted? How many conversations with wellness businesses specifically over the last 7 months?
Probably close to 140.
Probably close to 140. Like, this man is a beast. I want to actually really, really, really recognize you because you are world class when it comes to prospecting, building pipeline. And I said this at the event. I shared a vulnerable moment when you got fired. And we realized that we had tried to do a business together over
in the past.
It was like over 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I really felt that we needed to just give this a chance. And I remember telling you, Tom, you have built millions of dollars in pipeline for other companies that they pay you well. But don't you say good is the enemy of great?
Yeah. It's something that, I had a mentor tell me, which is that good is the enemy of great. And really what it means is we're all surrounded by a lot of good opportunities. And you're going to have people come to you all the time with good opportunities, right? I was a part of what once was a great mastermind community for years. And then as my career started to go in another direction, it no longer was great. It only was good, and that's because my career was going in a different direction. But even though I absolutely loved, cherished, and adored all the members of this mastermind, were very good friends, some of my lifelong mentors, had a wonderful time once a month when we met, and still got a lot out of it. Problem is it was no longer great for me. It was good, so I had to let it go. When I was in CrossFit and I decided to pursue the Ironman, I couldn't do both. The time and dedication, the hours needed to do an Ironman and get in that kind of shape, there's no way I could adequately stay in CrossFit. CrossFit at that point went from being great to just good for me, even though I loved CrossFit, everything about it. But sometimes you just have to let good go to pursue great.
So as I was sharing the story on how we decided to start the agency and bring you on board is I was like, you have built so much, money and revenue in pipeline for all of these companies that we're quite frankly, doing to you the same over and over and over. So how about if we give this a try? And the long story short, we're still here and we're thriving. But the multiple conversations were the origin of realizing our unique value proposition is number one, we do growth marketing. It's
Yep.
not just social. It's not just thing,
Yeah.
it's just like this a very comprehensive solution to grow their business. And the second thing is their biggest pain was we're paying ads and then either we're not converting
Yeah.
or we're paying a lot of money in those ads. And then the people that come, they're not really being members. So we're always constantly needing to spend money, more and more
Yeah.
money in ads. So that's the origin of that. So we start the day in the workshop talking about that. And that was kind of pretty cool. Actually, we got good feedback about really, it was good for them to hear the story, like the vulnerable story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we got good feedback about that. And then essentially, we also shared that normally when the reason why, right, I want to understand that I get what they spend at, right? And then it goes to show with related to episode 1 is because in the health and wellness industry, those people who are going to be your best clients ever, right?
Yeah.
Ever, with the largest transaction value. We're talking about that somebody that is going to be with you for 5, 6, 7 years, right? You're talking about thousands of dollars. They are not necessarily going to come from, a quick transaction.
Yeah.
And it takes time and effort to find those. And because of that, they get desperate. They feel that they're not gaining enough visibility. They think that they just need more eyeballs because they say it's a numbers game. Quite frankly, in the wellness industry, it's not really a numbers game at
Yeah.
all. At all. Would you say that you will travel further to a place because you feel better?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not numbers game or it's not convenience, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people invest in wellness for different reasons.
Yeah.
And we talk about that, which I think that's kind of like touched on episode 1. So you have to watch episode 1. We
Yep.
talk about, why people invest in a membership in particular. But then we kind of like morph the conversation into what we learned, because from your end, after having hundreds of conversations, you learn kind of like the pain points of our community. And what I learned was that sadly, I was relying a lot in the inbound marketing.
Yeah.
And I was really confusing the marketing qualified lead
Right.
and sales qualified lead.
Yeah.
And then you started talking, and then I was apparently interrupting you a lot. So, okay.
Not according to me.
Okay. But let's talk about that. Because it was actually my biggest issue. And there's so many, conversations that you had with me that in the very early days of us, basically starting the company together, I was like, Tom, you told me that you were doing sales for your job. And guys, like, we both always were working from home. It's
Yep.
just like our worlds were not really like, I
For a
didn't
long
know.
time, yeah.
I didn't know what he was doing, at his, office. He didn't really know like 100% of,
Yeah.
my business. So it was fascinating for me, at least, to get to know that you are more of a marketer than just a sales.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. It's something
Yeah.
that you learn about me, working with me, that you didn't know?
Oh, lots of things. I mean, I didn't realize how much went into the day-to-day and everything with, the creative, the campaigns, the design, the orchestration, triaging all kinds of conversations, all the different people that are involved. I mean, I had an idea, but not to the extent,
Okay.
your talents and all that you do.
Yeah. Well, and then, so one of the biggest discoveries where Tom got really, really excited is that he found out, wait a second. I mean, you have this community, and every day we receive between 25 and 30 new connections, right?
Meaning people that request access to the community.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you started there, right? And then throughout that process, I actually had to learn that I was just expecting that if I would do more volume, if I was more visible, if I did more content, even if the content was just a joke, right? People would come to me.
Yeah.
But you show me that the stats actually show me that was like completely wrong. And that's why I'm so like pushing into, hey guys, we need to share this more. Content marketing is not what they think. And even like online marketing, it's not sales.
Yeah.
Sales. So let's talk about that. Qualified marketing lead and qualified sales lead.
Yeah, I mean, so in the sales world, you have two different terms. You have MQL, which stands for Marketing Qualified Lead, and SQL, Sales Qualified Lead. And really what it comes down to is a marketing qualified lead is a lead that is in your orbit somehow, right? Maybe they downloaded a white paper, maybe they signed up or even attended a webinar. Maybe they clicked on an ad. Maybe they opened up a shopping cart and didn't complete the transaction. So they're in your orbit, right? But the reality is that you don't know anything about them. You don't know what their pain points are. You don't know why they were intending to buy. You don't know why they were on your site. You don't know why they were in your orbit. You just have no idea. A sales qualified lead is when somebody in your organization, whether it's you or a salesperson or whomever, actually has a conversation with that person and identifies why they're looking to buy pain points, okay? And it's basically just a much more further along progressed lead. That's why you need to distinguish an MQL versus an SQL.
And then let me ask you this, because to me it was like so fascinating. So when you were, because guys, in the beginning I was like, how can he be on the phone so much? Like where these leads are? Like what is this? How you know? So in my discovery of even getting to know what exactly a salesperson would do, right? So when you had your job, how many roles within the sales, right? The sales engine, how many roles are in one sales department?
It depends on the size and sophistication of the team, but there could be as many as 10 different roles. So let's focus on this, right? So you have so you have marketing whose job is to generate leads. Okay?
Contacts.
Yeah, I mean, let's not get into semantics.
Okay.
But people who could be potential buyers. But you haven't actually spoken to them yet, right? Okay?
If they're good marketers, but if they're
Correct.
not, they're just going to wing it. But
Correct.
yeah, okay,
Correct.
got it.
Then you have a role known as an SDR or BDR, so a sales development representative or a business development representative, and their job is exclusively to go after those leads and set up appointments for the salespeople. That is what they do. So they are, following up with leads that attended webinars, following up with leads that go to conferences. They're actually working the booth at conferences. Which,
by the way, that job is going to be canceled because AI is taking over.
I hate to say it, but for the less sophisticated sales cycles, that's probably true.
Yeah.
Because BDR and SDR salaries have gone up quite a bit, and it's just very expensive. So I could easily see that being replaced by technology. Then you have the salesperson himself, and it's gotten to the point now because buying cycles are so sophisticated, and because it's very difficult to generate leads on your own today. Most salespeople actually do not generate their own leads. Now, if you can, that's a bonus. It depends on the sales cycle, the product, all that. But
wait, what you said? Most sales what?
Most salespeople do not generate their own leads.
Wait, what?
Correct. Yeah. So it's marketing in conjunction with a sales development representative.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if I hire you to do sales for me, I'm not going to expect that you just find all the leads yourself?
I'm a hybrid. I've always been a hybrid because I don't trust companies.
Okay.
Okay, and I never will again, which is why we have an agency, because I don't, the problem is that, well, look, I'm not going to go off topic, but But marketers generate the leads, sales development reps, they're supposed to turn those leads into appointments, and then salespeople are supposed to turn those appointments into dollars. There's also there are two more roles that could potentially exist depending on the organization. One is called a sales enablement manager. This is a person whose job it is exclusively to create content, collateral, like white papers, brochures, articles, product descriptions for salespeople to use. And that typically is a role that works in the marketing team. Yes, this is an actual job. A lot of people are not aware of this.
Exactly.
Okay?
And actually, we talk
They
about
create
10 people to
content.
do sales.
Yeah.
And then in your experience,
hold
how
on.
many in the marketing
Then
team?
there's something called sales operations or sales ops. And what they do is they simply work with the customer relationship management system and all the systems of record. So let's say Salesforce.com, let's say a Zoho, a Go High Level, whatever. And they will be in charge of administering the data and working with salespeople to enter and extract data from those systems.
And that's how deals don't fall on the cracks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, okay, wow.
And then for marketing, to answer your question, there's also a lot of roles in marketing as well.
So let's talk about that.
Well, so you have your marketing executives, and then trickling down from them, you have what are known as your product managers, right? So the product managers are the people, they would report to a head of marketing or a CMO or a director, depending, and they are in charge each of one particular product or division in that company. And then below them, you then have marketing ops. These are people that actually do a lot of the work, right? And then they typically farm out most of this work to the Upworks of the world and the Fivers and all this and that, right? Like that's kind of the game. And I'll never forget, I was having a conversation with my chief marketing officer one day and talking about having a quote unquote executive roundtable, where we would basically get like 4 or 5 executives to talk about one particular software topic. And he liked the idea, and I said, okay, so how do we do this? He goes, oh, you think we do this? I'm like, well, yeah, y'all are the marketing team. Oh, no. We actually hire a contractor whose role it is exclusively to host an executive roundtable. This is an actual business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you because I learned that my job and my value and my duty to my clients is to think, not to do. And we've been able to really revamp everything, including like hiring a fractional COO and all that. Anyway, going back to the recap. So guys, we did talk about that, right? So the workshop was just very dynamic, very conversational. And then we talk about like why content marketing fails and all of that. And then Tom started talking about this concept of the back of the napkin, which took people to do this exercise. And this is another area, especially in the wellness industry, where there are so many new things that it takes people to like really learn. And there's so many educational points that need to happen for somebody to actually even consider trying something new. So you actually taught them this concept of the back of the napkin. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, basically what it is that you want to fit your entire value proposition onto the space of a napkin. Okay? How big that napkin is, well, I guess it depends how big of an eater you are. But here's the reality. The whole point is to be as concise as possible and shorten what you're going to have to say. Right? And let's go. And so really what it comes down to is you want to start off with a trigger statement that really captures the person that you're trying to sell. So you don't want to say, hey, I'm Tom McKeown, I work for Impact Line Digital, or hey, I do digital marketing, right? You want to state what is the end value of what you're offering, right? So hi, I'm Tom McKeown with Impact Line Digital. We explode growth for health and wellness businesses, right? We're talking about what the end result is of what we do, not actually what we do, because no one cares about what we do. Then if you want to explain in 2 or 3 points what that includes, you can do that. And then, there's always going to be a call to action, right? Should we talk? Give me a call at this number. Register on this form, right? I don't like that one, but it is a call to action, right? So keep it very, very concise. And we see a lot of errors where wellness business owners typically don't understand what their value proposition is. They understand what it is that they do, but not what the end value is in terms of communicating it. What do you think?
I just think that I wish that there was like some sort of like an app that could,
Yeah.
that maybe, when you said your value proposition in the very, very short and concise and beautiful and eloquent way, I'm like, I can't say that. I mean, every time I try, I'm like, I start with like, hi, I'm Jessica, the attorney turned wellness marketer, and we are with Impact Line Digital, and then that's it. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. So they had kind of like a challenge there because you want to talk to people. So when you talk to them, sometimes like you talk a lot, or maybe sometimes your demeanor,
Yeah.
right? So having that back of the napkin concept is very, very important.
Yeah.
Because they know that they're not going to have a lot of time to speak and impress that person.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about that. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, the thing is that in any type of sales situation, you have 12 to 16 seconds before people's attention dozes off and they're no longer paying attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to look at it is that the time you have in making your initial pitch, that's real estate. That's very valuable real estate, the most valuable real estate you have, which of course is your time. So if you don't hook them within those first 12 to 16 seconds, their attention's already elsewhere. They're going to view you as, okay, I don't get the value prop, I don't know what they do, it doesn't relate to me, and they start thinking, how do I get out of this conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's in person, it's a little bit more tricky. If it's on the phone, it's not as tricky, right? And if it's digital, it's not tricky at all, right? So you want to make sure that you hook the prospect, the person you're talking to, in those first 12 to 16 seconds. And if you do hook them and they're interested in more what you have to say, you can absolutely, Jessica, have a very long conversation with them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So then we talk about essentially how to ignite, the right leads and how they could, in fact, see the growth and the sales and things like that. Which a little bit we did talk in our prior episode about community, but we actually taught also about the concept of give people an experience. And remember the example of like, hey, if you have a runners club, make sure that you create something that is super cool that then people talk about it. Because everybody, especially here in Austin, you have a lot of content creators.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that you attract content creators.
Yeah.
And we talk about the boombox, which, by the way, that was a good review. They love that strategy.
Yep. Yep.
Can we talk a little bit about that experiential touch point? How'd you call that?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of brand activation,
Uh-huh.
the experiential marketing. I think it's like, the way I like to put it is you want to make your interactions as a community that you establish as part of the members in your business, you want to make it almost cult-like.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So, like, for example, I belong to a men's boot camp, and, like, if we were to tell you half the stuff we did, you would say, wow, you guys are like a cult. And we kind of are. Right? So, for example, we do not address each other by our actual first names.
Mm-hmm.
We have cool names. So, for example, my name is Trinity. Why? Because I like The Matrix. So they gave me that name. We have people like all kinds of names. Like one guy, who we just named yesterday. He's originally from Germany, but then he lived in Birmingham, Alabama. So we gave him like this cool funky name, Germanham. You get it? For Germany, Birmingham, Germanham.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates this fun dynamic where you're calling each other these like ridiculous names.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always at very early in the morning, 5 a.m. in the morning. So having these very unique things creates these bonds between you and the other members, and that creates kind of like a cult.
Yes, which is actually why, like, if your business, and probably businesses that we work with, what we have seen, they know this. They know that they want to hire somebody to do events. They probably outsource to maybe like a micro influencer, or a small community. They
Yeah.
they would outsource like a brand activation.
Yeah.
But what is missing, and this is like the very interesting thing, and it was like this. What is missing? You ready? From those who do brand activation,
Can't wait.
I'm gonna do like a truth bomb. Boom. This is what they're missing.
What are they missing?
They're missing sales. They're missing sales. They're missing sales because they don't control what happens after that brand activation. And sometimes the business owner is even overwhelmed, so they don't
Yeah.
they don't have the time or the bandwidth to do what needs to be done as part of the brand activation, which is why we revealed the secrets and why we told them, listen, we actually offered like partnership development program and services and solutions because we don't want you to go through all of these,
Yeah.
heavy lifting work to then not having results.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we talk about that. They were like, wait, how many times do I follow up with this person? Right? We talk about the following up and the
Yeah.
nurturing part.
Yeah, and follow up is just so critical. It could be what makes or breaks your entire business. Only 14% of businesses follow up with a prospect after a first call. It's so devastating to see. And meanwhile, the vast majority of transactions, almost 90%, take place between the 5th and the 12th exposure. So you got to have a lot of touch points and be in front of your prospects always. Because a lot of times it's not that they don't want to buy, they don't know that they want to buy, and it takes some time to think about it. It takes some time to be educated. It takes some time to realize what their pain points are. Oh, you know what, I probably should lose weight this year. Oh, you know what, I actually do want to work out less by using, AI-based weights and, cold plunge and, red light versus going to the gym for an hour and a half a day. Or you know what, I actually feel great around these people. You know what, I've thought about them 5 times since that one free trial day I went in the past week. You know what? Let me actually go in because they just reached out to me for the 4th time.
Yeah.
So the follow-up is so critical.
It is critical, and you kind of have to be like, to the point that you feel that you're annoying the other person. But
Yeah.
how many times you have heard from people, thank you for following up for me?
Yeah, it
With me.
happens. Yeah, there's this notion out there that you're annoying people and that you're bothering people, and there's no question that there's definitely a way to overdo it and to excessively communicate. But with the vast majority of people that you politely follow up, they will be appreciative. Trust me. It's happened to me so many times where I get thank yous. Thank you so much for, writing that bumping to the top of your inbox message, right? I mean, it just happens a lot.
Yeah. And then, I'm still super, super excited because we were able to get one of our members of the growth program who came to share in life. I know that she was so busy, and last minute she's like, yeah, I can go and explain, what one of the great strategies we did, which was essentially an event around something that people are already aware of and they're celebrating. We created that emotional connection so that they would come to make new friends. And when I proposed her that concept, she's like, that sounds great, but we only have 2 weeks. And I said, well, if we are going to invite people who are going to potentially be alliances that will introduce you to their people, again, I'm always going to start with what value can we add to somebody else's lives, right? So I led with that and I said, trust me here, it's going to work. And she was just sharing that, like how it felt on her end very, very fast. But she trusted, and I'm, I'm super busy, but I know what I'm doing. So we made it work. And then within weeks, she's already seeing new members. We were running the numbers actually on social media, like, the content is working. And all of that, all from creating that like epicenter
Yeah.
or trigger event. So we did talk
Yeah.
about that in the workshop. And then what else we did? What else we talk about?
Yeah, I mean, in the workshop we covered so much. I think the last thing that I'll touch on is KPIs, so key performance indicators. Each business has to know what are their KPIs across the entire range of your operation. We'll just stick to marketing for now, but it's really so critical because you want to measure your results in everything that you do, but just sticking to sales and marketing because that's how you're going to be able to know what's working, what's not working, what to double down on, which areas you give a little bit of attention to, make a few small tweaks, you can see a massive return, and then maybe some areas where you're spending too much time on that need, frankly, an overhaul.
This one was actually really good. I'm gonna like drop a nugget here. It's fascinating to see that some of the KPIs that we have been building are like new KPIs
Yeah.
for the business, but for locations especially, we like to test how many people see the content and go to the place.
Yeah.
And sometimes we want to test how many like opportunities the location itself will create. For clients that have a sexy location that has a lot of traffic,
Yeah.
we are putting QR codes outside, okay? QR codes outside just to test how many people showed to your store and you were closed and then you lost those opportunities.
Yep.
And guess what? That's working too.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we see by tracking key performance indicators, you can see exactly where there might be a bottleneck in your business. So, like Jessica said, the example she gave with the QR codes, we have also seen cases where we'll be generating a client a ton of leads, multiple 100 percentage points growth in traffic and inbounds, but yet the sales aren't going up. And the question is why? And we'll find out that the owner is not really in tune with what's going on in the store itself, and we find out that they've turned over their front desk staff multiple times. None of the new people who started have been adequately trained. They wound up leaving, and many of the leads that come in are not even tracked, not even greeted, not even entered into the system, right? Another example we see is with technology, where technologies won't necessarily integrate. So you see a ton of leads coming in, but it won't integrate with the CRM. It's not populating, and therefore the people in charge of sales can't even see that there are leads coming in. But these are things that you want to find out about as they're happening, not 30 days later when you suddenly lost tens of thousands of dollars in new sales.
I hope they can see that you're a business optimizer.
Try to be. That's what we try to be. That's why Jess and I are a good team. She's an absolute powerhouse of a marketer. I just try to help complement her with some of my background, and we do appreciate you guys giving us another go here for the second episode. Hopefully that you like it. Any closing thoughts?
I am. I'm just gonna say that I love that we're doing this, and I want to keep doing this. And it's really a privilege that they give us their support and then their time. And my commitment is to add value. And by all means, please reach out if you have ideas or questions and things like that. We also want to bring guests on, and we want you to get to meet them and know if they can also be at your service.
Yep.
Yeah, with that being said, essentially, that workshop that we made, it was really a way for us to strategize out loud with businesses,
Yep.
and we gave them chances to really ask us questions.
It was a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, yes, it was an educational session, but it was a conversation.
It was.
We were all talking.
Yeah,
And
it
really-
was. And
yeah.
if they want to get the deck,
Yeah.
we can definitely give them the deck. I hope that by the time when we publish this episode, there is some sort of a funnel so they
That's
can download.
That's always the goal. We want to give all of you and all the people that we have the privilege of working with the funnel, right? So let us know, and thanks again for joining the Revenue Plunge.
Bye for now.